So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Shelley Augustine and I am the director of the Yorkville Public Library. And thank you all for coming out tonight. I have you muted, but if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll monitor that, and we can give Lucy questions at the end of our program. I want to tell you real quickly about a few things going on. You probably caught me saying that our summer reading program started June 1st and it's going through July 31st. So we have programs for teens, children, and adults. So please come in, pick up your reading logs, and we have weekly prizes. We have grand prize drawings throughout the summer. So we'd love to have you join us. You can do a paper reading log, or you can log on online to our online reading portal and record your minutes there. We also have, let's see, we are bringing back movies into the library. We're so excited about that. So we are doing a Monday movie for kids, June 21st at 1 o'clock. We'll be showing the movie Soul. And then we will be doing a adult movie on Monday, June 28th at 1 o'clock, and that movie is The Upside. So we'd love to have you join us for those. Looking ahead into July, Miss Jeanette, our children's librarian, director of children's services, actually, she has created a Candyland scavenger hunt where she will be having patrons move throughout Yorkville into 4 different locations and participate in this Candyland scavenger hunt. So stay tuned for information on that. And then we also have an in-person program, July 20th at 7 o'clock. It's an adult program. And our food historian, Cynthia Clampett, is going to be talking about how corn changed itself and changed everything else. So it's a corn history program. We thought that that was kind of appropriate for summer and for the Midwest. So we'd love to have you join us for that as well. So I am going to pass the program on now to our speaker, Lucy, and we can have her introduce herself to you and tell us her great story. So go ahead, Lucy.
All right. Shelley, could you give me sharing options, please? So I could share my screen. Thank you. Good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. I want to thank the Yorkville Public Library for having me present tonight. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share my story. I am Lucy Girolamo. I am a Cuban immigrant. I am also I have been an ESL teacher in Yorkville for 13 years now. I teach at anybody who's familiar with Yorkville, at the intermediate school. I teach 4th through 6th grade students. And I am also the author of the book To the Pastures. So I told everybody I would share my story. My story begins in Havana, Cuba. Havana is the capital city of Cuba. And roughly when I was about 1 year old, my parents and my middle sister and I moved to a southern coastal town called Santiago de Cuba. And we moved there to live with my paternal grandparents. And several years after that, my baby sister was born. Cuba, many might know or might not, used to be a tropical paradise. It was considered the Las Vegas of the Caribbean. It was a beautiful place. Music, I'm sorry, Shelley, do you want me to let them in?
I got it.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
That's okay.
The music, the art, the food, everything was just fabulous. Movie stars and people from all over the United States would hop on a plane and just, take a short trip down for the weekend to this tropical paradise, or just, to have a glamorous vacation. But in 1960, Fidel Castro took over, and he brought his communist government and his ideals with him. And this is, I'm going to go over now why we left. We had to leave our native land. When he took over, he took away the rights and liberties of the Cuban citizens. Everything was rationed. Clothing, food. If you wanted, when you needed to purchase your groceries, you would have to get up early in the morning and wait in a very long line to go into the store to get your necessities. You were only allowed so many pounds of meat, rice, coffee, what have you, per month. When you made your way in, if they did not have what you needed, you would have to wait until it became available again and come back, get up early again and sit in that long line and hope that, by the time you got in, it was still available. Clothing was also rationed. You were only allowed 3 undergarments per year, 1 pair of shoe per person per year. School, for the middle school changed for students. When he took over, any child, by the time the child had to go to middle school, they would be taken to a camp for the school year. They would be taken away from home to a camp. And in the camp, they would have to work. And when they did get an education, it was on the communist ideals. Equal distribution was something he brought as part of a socialist agenda or ideal. He took away all private businesses and private property from the Cuban citizens. If anybody, any Cuban citizen that owned property or a business, it now became property of the government. There was no longer freedom of speech. Here in America, we can go out and protest and march with signs and billboards. We see it all the time in the news. But in Cuba, you cannot do that. If you did, and it's still, all of this still is in place today. It's still the case today. But if you go out in public and you march or protest, banners, signs, anything, the police, the government police will come and attack you. They will beat you. There are videos of those things taking place right now, and you will also be incarcerated. So there is no freedom of speech at all in Cuba. He banned Christmas. And to ensure that people complied with that, toys were not allowed to be sold during that time of year. So, parents would have to get creative in ways to give their children toys to celebrate those holidays. In July, he would allow the stores to stock up on toys again, but again, rations. So the family could only buy 3 toys per child. One of those could be an expensive, bigger toy. The other 2 had to be smaller and cheaper. So for those reasons and many others, my parents made the heart-wrenching decision to leave their native land and to leave their beloved family, knowing that we most likely would never see them again. And in order to leave the country legally, through legal means, we had to, in order to get our immigration papers, we had to go through another country. We chose Spain because my grandfather was born in Spain and we have family there. So we went to Spain and we were there about 4 months waiting for immigration papers. We stayed with our family. And then when our papers came in, with our papers in hand, we came to the United States. And our first stop was in Miami. We stayed with family there as well. And here I received bilingual education. My sisters and I received bilingual education. We were only here for the school year, so 9 months. So when the school year ended, we then made our way north to a suburb of Chicago, where we lived by my aunt and uncle. So now we settled in the Midwest, And we embraced the American culture, this new culture, Christmas, snow, all these wonderful things that America brought. And but we made sure that we continued with our Cuban customs. My sisters and I went to school, and school for me was English immersion. And with only 1 year of bilingual education, school was extremely difficult. It was very hard. Learning the English language, reading and writing, it was a task. And it took me a while to pick up the English language, but I got through it. I worked hard, and I graduated high school, went to college, and in college, I took a writing course at COD, the College of DuPage. And I don't remember what the task was, but I remember that the paper that I wrote, it was a short story on my dad. It was about 3 or 5 pages. It wasn't very long, but the professor said that he really liked it and that I should write a book. And I laughed. I said, okay, thanks for the compliment. I appreciate it, but I was not interested in writing. Like I said, it was difficult when I was in school. By the time I got to college, in college, actually, writing, I finally clicked. I got the skills down. I felt comfortable. And, you know, this class obviously helped, but that was the extent of writing. I, beyond what was required of my college classes, I was not interested in writing anything else, especially a book. So that, you know, put that thought in the back of my mind till many years later. So life went on, right? I go to school, college, I start a career, I have a family, but growing up, in the United States, as a young girl in high school, college, and now that I have children, we come around my family. Whenever we get together with family and friends, there was always a discussion about what happened in Cuba, why we left, and what continues to take place. We are always discussions and conversations, and my children would hear these talks. And they have so many questions. They would ask me, you know, why did that happen to abuelo? Abuelo is grandfather in Spanish. Why did that happen to abuelo? Who did that? You know, what's going on? So many questions. They were so curious. And I realized at that moment that I needed to write this down. I needed to put this story in writing. So, you know, if anything, you know, for my kids, so they would understand what their abuelo went through, what their grandfather went through, how he fought, how he stood up for himself and for his native people. And so they would understand their heritage. So I began writing. I got paper out and started writing, taking notes, asking my dad questions, writing down all the stories that I had heard as a child and growing up, and, you know, confirming details and just writing. And then 2014 hit and my father passed away. And at that point, I had to put the book down. I could not open it. It still makes me tear up. But it was just too painful to relive those stories. So I put it away for about a year, maybe 2. And during this time, it had already started happening, but, you know, it was getting, I was seeing more of the results of America resuming relations with Cuba. The ban on travel was lifted, and people were just flocking to the island. Tourism was exploding, and it was just as the years went on, it was just more and more. And I would see articles and I would see comments on social media of people saying, "Oh my gosh, you have to go. It's beautiful. The Cuban people need our money. They need to, we need to give them the American dollar." And every time I would see these posts and comments or articles, it would just make me so upset and so sad, because people did not understand. They did not understand that what this cause was, what this created was for the Cuban government. It empowered them. the tourism was a facade. The repression on the Cuban citizens was worse. They needed to ensure that Cubans did not expose the reality to the tourists or in the rest of the world. So in this tourist part of Cuba, it was beautiful. The music, the food, everything, plenty, everything gorgeous. The buildings were immaculate. But once you venture outside of that, buildings are literally crumbling. There are images of buildings falling down. People can't find water in some places, and the Cuban citizens are going hungry. They are hungry, they've been hungry. And the government, all this money they're making, they're keeping it for themselves. If you look at pictures of the palace, the presidential palace, it's beautiful, but the rest of Cuba is in disrepair and only getting worse. So they needed to ensure that Cuban citizens did not, expose the reality. So the repression got worse. The guards were out on the street more, monitoring, making sure that people are not coming out to protest or to say anything to expose the reality. So reading those articles, seeing those comments, I knew that I needed to pick up the book again and finish the story. I needed to educate everybody on the truth. So that, forced me to complete the book. And by this time I was teaching, have been teaching for several years. And as an ESL teacher, I help my students with their reading and writing skills. So I thought, I need to be a model for these students. I need to show them that you can grow up to be a writer, an author, a published author. And I also needed to finish the book, again, like I said, to educate the world. I really, really needed to let people know the reality. And for my children, so they would understand what their grandfather did, how he fought and did not sit down and put up with the abuse, or try to anyways. And again, for my students, I wanted, to teach them a lesson about perseverance and fighting for civil justice. So I dedicated myself to finishing the book. So the book, To the Pastures. It begins in another southern coastal town, Ineas, in Cuba, which is the town where my dad grew up. It is the story about my dad and how he and many Cubans fought for their civil rights. It starts by showing us how Fidel took over and then what happened once he took control. So those details of what I covered earlier. Cubans at this moment when this happened, my dad and many other Cubans stood up to try and get their freedom back and bring back the democracy to their country. But unfortunately, the consequences of those actions were devastating. There were many incarcerations, many tortures, and many assassinations. Cubans struggled and suffered during this time, and they continue to. It hasn't changed, but I cover in this book those events. I did change the names of the characters. It was a request that my dad made from the very beginning. My dad and many other Cubans are still in fear of the consequences of what the government might do to any that might still be there, family members and friends. So I promised my dad I would change the names of the characters to protect their identity. So I did comply with that. I complied. I did that for my father. So this is the synopsis. It's in the back of the book, so I'll read it for you quickly. Christian's family owned a successful enterprise in Ineas, Cuba. One morning, the family heard gunfire in the fields behind their house. This was the start of the revolution to defeat the dictator Batista. When Fidel overthrew Batista and promised a democratic government, things didn't go as promised. He took private businesses away from the owners, and Christian's family business is one of those casualties. Christian and his brother Samuel feel compelled to fight for their country. After many failed attempts to disturb Fidel's economy, Cuban rebels plan a movement to get back their freedom. The consequences of this movement are devastating. Despite the challenges, Christian finds hope and courage to persevere with the help of his family and trusted comrade. And this is a map that is in the book, and it shows you all the different parts of the story where they take place. So my writing process, I've had many people ask me about my writing process. It took me 10 years. Granted, one or two of those was, a pause that I needed to take, but many of those years, the rest of them were lots of work. I interviewed my dad, took so many notes, my mom, lots and lots of notes. And I also interviewed members of the Cuban Civic Committee of Chicago. They also were in the movement with my dad, fighting alongside him. So they had a lot of insight that I could use. I also did a lot of research, lots and lots of research, because I wanted to make sure that the information I have in the book is factual and not just my dad's opinion. So lots of research. So with all of this, there were many versions, editions. And then towards the end of my writing process, I joined the Geneva Night Writers Workshop. And they were a phenomenal group. They gave me so much support and insight, ideas, and which I used. The book, when I started writing the book, it was in the form of a memoir. And the writers group made a suggestion that I make it a novel. So I did. I wrote the book in third person so I could capture the thoughts and feelings of several characters. And with, so the book, which it is my dad's memoir, but it is written as a novel, and all the events are true and factual, but it is written as a novel. So I finished it, I completed it, and I started submitting my manuscript to agents and publishers, and many of them came back and said that it was too short. So I said, okay, not a problem, but I did not want to add any more than what was already in the book. I wanted to cover specific events and those specific details. So I decided at that point then to go with a hybrid publisher. So I found Lebia Chapman, and the team was phenomenal in helping me finalize the editing, do the final editing. They, with my help, we, together created the cover, which made me cry when I received the final copy. And they helped me publish it through Amazon. Now, another reason why I wanted to go with a hybrid publisher is because all the rights to the book are mine. And since this is my father's story, my family story, it was very important to me that I kept all the rights to the book. So, book is done. I finished it. It was out March 3rd of 2020. I began my social media presence. I created my Facebook page, my Instagram account, my web page, and started my promotion. And then COVID hit. So everything came to a halt. But during this time, I stayed busy. I had many family and friends say that request a Spanish version. So I came through and did that during that COVID time. I went to the Benedictine University and found Professor Joaquin Montero, and he translated the book for me, and now the book is published in Spanish and under the title of A los Pastos. So what's next? My students are always asking me, what's next, Mrs. G? What are you going to write next? So I would like to write a sequel with my mom's version, but I need to get her permission first. So I'm working on that. But I think especially in this day and age, that it would be important for people to see a female patriot and, fighting for civil justice and freedom. And I'm also working with my son. He is writing a book that covers his struggles and his journey with epilepsy, which I think would be very helpful to others that are fighting with epilepsy and seizure disorders. So my final message for tonight, I tell my students this all the time. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story to share, something that could help or encourage others or entertain. We have such many creative minds out there. So if there's an event in your life or anything, an experience, something that you think could help others, or if you just want to entertain people, I encourage you to start writing. So my books, you can, if you want to purchase my books, you can find them on my website, lucygirolamo.com. If you purchase them through my website, I will send you an autographed copy. You can also get it on Amazon. You can find me on Facebook, L. Girolamo Author. On Instagram, I am under lucy.girolamo, or if you need to reach me, you can send me an email at lucygauthor@gmail.com. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Yorkville Public Library, for allowing me to share my story. Are there any questions?
Unmute everybody. Nope. Anybody have any questions for our author here? Okay, I know. I know this answer, but you can tell how you came up with the title.
Oh, yes, great question. You did ask me that once before. So, To the Pastures, my dad and his younger brother, Samuel, who's also a character in the book, on their family property, one of their jobs in the evening was to take the mules to the pastures to graze. And that was one of their favorite pastimes, where they would take those walks and just chit chat. And that he would reference that many times to me. He would tell me about those events and those moments, and they are mentioned in the book. So I thought it would be appropriate.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, one thing I just wanted to know, so I know this event's being recorded, correct?
Yes.
And how long is it available? On like, if it's recorded, is it something that could be shared with other people?
So I will have it posted tomorrow on our Yorkville Public Library YouTube page.
Okay.
And, did you sign up?
Yeah, I registered for this. Yeah.
Everybody that registered, I will send them the link to it too.
Oh, and would it be something that I could share?
Absolutely, please do.
Okay. All right, cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. Thank you.
I know.
Yeah, yeah. How close are you of getting my?
I'm sorry, you're frozen.
Oh, you got me now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. No, I was wondering how close you are to having your mom, start giving you
Permission?
Yes.
Oh, I'm still trying. I keep trying. She's very modest, and she's just, I don't want to be written about, but I'm trying to convince her that, I think it's an important story to share, especially from the woman's perspective. Especially,
yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, this one,
I'm going to keep asking.
Would it be written like this in terms of like for a young adult?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, because again, I want it to be something, my children are grown up now, so it doesn't matter, but my nieces and nephews, I think it would be great for them to be able to, I had a picture in there of one of my nieces reading the book, so I want them to be able to read it and enjoy it and appreciate it and learn from it. Thank you. Great question.
Okay.
I have great question. Have I shared this with my students? Actually, when the book came out, excuse me, when the book came out and then COVID hit, we started teaching remotely. And my students knew I had the book, and a couple of them had actually picked it up because I had it in my classroom. And when we started, learning e-learning, they asked me about it, and that was one of the things that I started doing with them. I started reading three chapters per week, or I don't remember how often, but I started reading the chapters for them, and I would record it so that they could go back and read it, and others that wouldn't couldn't make it that day to class would be able to read it. And I did finish reading the book for that group of students. So, and they enjoyed it. They liked it. They had lots of really good questions. So yeah, I did. And then this year e-learning was, again, it was different. So I started to read it to my class, but then curriculum got in the way. So, but it is in my classroom. So I hope that next year my students will be able to pick it up and read it as well.
We also have it, we purchased a copy of it, and it's in our collection as well. And
Thank
Lucy graciously signed it for us too. So.
Thank you.
So yeah, can't wait to get your other books too. And we can do more programs.
I will, yes. I will definitely keep you posted. And if anybody's interested, if you would go to my website and you join my newsletter, when I convince my mother and I write that book, I will let you know that it's out.
Are you doing any more promoting locally, specifically within the Cuban community?
I am hoping that every year the Civic Cuban Committee, they used to have a festival. Last year it was postponed because of COVID. I'm not sure if they're going to do it this year, but the plan last year was for me to have a booth and sell books and talk about it. So if I'm not sure if they're going to do it this year or not, but if not, I know that next year it will be on, and I will be doing it. I have had requests from family and friends in Miami to come to come down, but I'm not sure if I want to get on a plane just yet, so we'll see. But yes, I do. I need to start promoting it and getting out there more. I'm just trying to, let all of this, everything open up a little bit more so I can get more comfortable going out and speaking in public.
You were on Good Morning Aurora, correct?
I was, yes, thank you. I was interviewed by Good Morning Aurora a couple of weeks ago, and that interview is on Facebook, and I also have it on my website. And I do share the story, and I think I give a few more details that I might not have shared tonight. And we talk about all sorts of other stuff too. So, but yes, you can check out my interview on Facebook or on my website.
Are there any other questions for Lucy tonight? No? All right. Well,
thank you everybody that joined us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you all for
Well,
coming.
thanks Yorkville Library for offering that opportunity.
Pleasure, our pleasure. And again, I will share this recording with you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate it.
All right, you guys enjoy your evening.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.